So I wanted to take a look at the top 10 high school recruits by 24/7 Sports in 2018. Starting with number 10, it was Jamari Sawyer. Jamari Sawyer was the consensus number one offensive guard in the country coming out of Pace Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. Sawyer had 29 college offers, with Georgia and Clemson being his top choices. He was described as being flexible for his size, having a solid base, and being well-balanced at the point of attack. He showed the ability to overpower defenders in the run game and was excellent in pass protection as well. Sawyer's high school coach at the time, Chris Slade, a 9-time New England Patriots player, said, quote, "He's the best high school lineman I've ever seen." High praise considering that Slade also coached number 4 overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft in Andrew Thomas. Sawyer became dominant at left tackle, starting in 11 of 15 games. 2021, also seeing action at right guard, became one of the permanent team captains voted by teammates. Despite missing time with injuries, Sawyer finished the year allowing just 2 quarterback hurries and no sacks. During the draft process, Scout loved Sawyer's versatility and ability to play all 5 positions on the O-line. They liked his wide base, excellent calm hands, great ability to run block and hold anchor and pass protection were the highlights of Sawyer's game. Even with all the positive in his game, scouts and media attempted to emphasize the negative in Sawyer's game. Sawyer would end up be selecting in the 6th round with the 195th overall pick by the LA Chargers. Safe to say it was farther than most expected. One NFL director of play personnel said, quote, "His height and length are issues, his workout numbers weren't great, and his film was up and down." In his rookie season, most thought Sawyer would play on the interior offensive line for the Chargers. After an injury to star left tackle Rashawn Slater in Week 2, Sawyer ended up getting on the field and starting at left tackle the remainder of the season for the Chargers. The Chargers putting him in this position showed that the coach's staff thought highly of his abilities, and he should have not have slipped to the 6th round in the first place. Sawyer did not allow a sack until his 7th start. Chargers GM Tom Telesco would come out and say, "He saved us this year," referring to Sawyer. He also would say, quote, "He played really efficient football for us at a critical position." The Chargers coaching staff will still put Rashawn Slater as starting at left tackle, but for Sawyer, he's done enough to earn him a full-time starting job in 2023 for him. Coming out of Scotland High School in Laurinburg, North Carolina, Zamir White was the number 1 running back in the 2018 class, and he also come in at the 9th overall player. Scouts loves White's speed and ability to run defenders over with his power. His sophomore season in high school, his production was through the roof, rushing for 2,159 total yards and 41 touchdowns. White had an impressive senior season that sadly ended with him tearing his ACL in the 2nd round of the playoffs. White became the full-time starter for the Georgia Bulldogs in 2020, finishing as the team's leading rusher with 779 yards on 144 carries that included 11 touchdowns. In his final season at Georgia in 2021, White started 12 of 15 games, playing in all 15 of them, and rushing for a team-high 856 yards and 11 rushing touchdowns, playing a critical role in them winning a national championship. During the draft process, scouts loved his physicality, and he had a very good combine performance, running a 4.4 40-yard dash at 6 foot, 214 pounds. He also had a 1.5 10-yard split, second fastest among running backs at the combine. The main concern with White was injuries. Having 2 ACL tears in 2017 and 2018, White would get drafted in the 4th round at pick 122 by the Las Vegas Raiders. White's playing time was a legit question mark heading to the Las Vegas Raiders since their current running back, Josh Jacobs, was already a proven good starter. White would end his rookie year with 70 yards rushing on just 17 carries. White still has a chance to develop into a starter in the NFL, but how much playing time will he get in 2023 with Josh Jacobs still being there remains to be seen. The number 8 player is wide receiver Justin Shorter, who attended South Brunswick High School in Monmouth Junction, New Jersey. The number 1 wide receiver overall in this class was selected to the Under Armour All-American game. Shorter chose Penn State over many other programs. In 2019, Shorter played in 10 games, making 5 starts, finishing the season with just 12 catches for 137 yards. After just 2 short seasons at Penn State, he chose to transfer to Florida. 3 years at Florida, Justin Shorter showed flashes. But in the end, he finished compiling 1,395 yards and 8 touchdowns. Justin Shorter's career at Florida and Penn State overall was pretty underwhelming. Despite the lack of production in college, Shorter had a solid combine, running a 4.55 and posting an impressive vertical of just shy of 36 inches. Shorter did show a good enough skill set to be drafted. Scouts did like his size at 6'4", 229 pounds, and his ability to win vertically. He did show ability to adjust and go up and win jump balls. He would eventually be selected in the 5th round by the Buffalo Bills. He is expected to make the roster and will primarily be a backup for Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis. The number 7 overall player by 24/7 was Nicholas Petit-Frere. Petit-Frere attended Berkeley Preparatory Academy. Petit-Frere played basketball in high school, and his outstanding footwork and hand-eye coordination helped his football game. Petit-Frere's high school coach had high praise for him, saying, "I've coached a lot of great players here, and Nicholas is right up there." Petit-Frere chose to commit to Ohio State over other big-time programs recruiting him that included the likes of Alabama, Florida. In 2020, Petit-Frere would be the starting right tackle for Ohio State, and he played very well, earning second-team All-Big Ten honors. In 2021, he moved to left tackle again and was very good, earning second-team All-American honors by Associated Press and first-team All-Big Ten honors. Draft experts loved his quick feet and how good of an athlete he was, but many had concerns about his anchor and overall play strength. Most projected him as a second or third round pick. The Titans would select him with the 69th pick in the 3rd round. Petit-Frere played in 16 games as a rookie, starting in all 16 of them. Missing just one game with an ankle injury in Week 17, Petit-Frere allowed 5 sacks and had 8 penalties. Frere looks like a solid starting NFL tackle and a guy who has a chance to make a year 2 leap. Number 6 on this list was Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain played at American Heritage High School in Plantation, Florida. Surtain's father was a 3-time Pro Bowl player in the NFL and was also his high school coach. Surtain was the number 1 cornerback in this class and the number 3 overall player in the state of Florida. Surtain chose Alabama over LSU. Surtain made an early impact as a freshman at Alabama, earning all SEC freshman team honors by coaches. In 2019 and 2020, Surtain developed into a true shutdown corner in Alabama. His play helped earn him hype as a top 10 NFL draft pick. Surtain seemed to be the consensus number 1 cornerback heading into the 2021 draft. Everyone loved his technique, size, and tackling ability. The one question mark was his speed, but he proved a lot of people wrong at his Alabama Pro Day, running at 4.41. Denver selected Surtain 9th overall in the 2021 NFL Draft. Surtain proved early to be worthy of the top 10 selection right away, having a dominant rookie season. This past year in 2022, Surtain had another excellent season where he was selected as a Pro Bowler and a first-team All-Pro. Surtain has a bright future ahead of him in Denver, now as one of their best defensive players and maybe arguably their best player on their team. Number 5 was Micah Parsons. Parsons was the top player in the state of Pennsylvania, playing at Harrisburg High School. Parsons showed how athletic he was in high school as a standout at defensive end and on the offensive side at running back. Parsons chose to stay in his home state and play at Penn State over Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Nebraska most notably. In 2018 and 19, Parsons was very dominant. 2019, as just a true sophomore, Parsons was likely the best player on the Penn State football team. In his final game in college against Memphis, Parsons finished with 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. This was as dominant a performance you will see in one game from a college defender. Prior to the 2020 season, Parsons came out and said, quote, on Instagram, "As I considered my options, I had to make a choice not for myself, but for my son and those dearest to me." Parsons was saying that he would opt out of the 2020 season and prepare for the NFL draft. Prior to the 2021 NFL draft, Parsons was viewed as the top linebacker and arguably the best defensive player in the draft. Parsons had some off-the-field issues that raised some question, but he still would end up being selected to the Cowboys 12th overall after some thought he would go as high as number 7. 2021, Micah Parsons was completely dominant as a rookie, really elevating the Dallas Cowboys defense. He was arguably had the best season by a rookie defender ever, first team All-Pro and a Pro Bowl selection. This past year in 2022, Parsons was elite again and named first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler. It says he's off to as good a start as you can in the first 2 years of a season and is looking to add weight in this offseason and play defensive end full-time for the Dallas Cowboys. The number 4 player was Iyaba Onomi. We will refer to him as Iyaba Oki, is what he currently goes by. Oki attended St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. He was known for his explosiveness, rushing off the edge, and playing with a relentless motor. Oki chose to attend Alabama. Oki played pretty well as a freshman at Alabama, earning him SEC All-Freshman Team honors. Oki would eventually leave Alabama. When people asked Nick Saban about what happened, Nick Saban said he was dismissed by the university. That's all I can really say about that. Oki ended up transferring to Houston, where he never played a down, and spent the 2019 season redshirting and eventually was dismissed by the team. Oki would transfer to UT Martin, and in 2020 he had to sit out due to transfer rules. 2021 with UT Martin had a really nice season, recording 6 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. This past season, he was transferred to the University of Michigan just a couple weeks prior to the 2022 season. He would play in all 14 games with Michigan, making 2 starts, recording 4 sacks and 6 tackles for loss. In January of 2023, Oki would announce he would transfer again to now his 5th team in 6 years. Oki will transfer to the University of Charlotte, for what will likely be his last football season and his last chance to put college tape out for NFL evaluators. The number 3 player was defensive end Xavier Thomas. Thomas was the number 1 player in the state of Florida, coming out of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. Thomas was known for his outstanding work ethic and being an explosive, powerful edge rusher, and he eventually would choose to commit to Clemson. 2018, Thomas had a nice first season at Clemson, compiling 8.5 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks. Thomas was solid again in 2019, but not dominant. 2021, Thomas had some problems. He dealt with COVID-19 and strep throat. The NCAA did allow him to play in 7 games, even though he had intentions to just play 4 games in redshirt. The NCAA still let him play the 7 games and honored the redshirt. 2022 was another disappointing year for Xavier Thomas, as he broke his foot in fall camp and initially was expected to miss 6 weeks. He returned in early October, but re-injured his foot in the practice weeks leading up to the Notre Dame game. Thomas will return to Clemson for his 6th season in 2023. Justin Fields was considered the top dual-threat quarterback coming out of Harrison High School in Kennesaw, Georgia. Scouts loved how good of an athlete he was, how impressive his arm strength was. Fields originally committed to Penn State, but decommitted and chose to play at Georgia. It was interesting he chose to play at Georgia since they already had Jake Fromm. Fields would play in 12 games at Georgia as a freshman, but mostly as a backup to Jake Fromm. In 2019, he chose to transfer to Ohio State. Fields was terrific for Ohio State in both seasons, leading them to back-to-back Big Ten titles, including a college football playoff appearance in 2019, losing a close thriller to Clemson, to leading them back to a rematch with Clemson in 2020, where they would defeat Clemson and Fields would throw for 385 yards and 6 touchdown passes, one of the big highlights of Justin Fields' career. Fields was seen as the consensus 3rd quarterback prior to the 2021 draft. Many questioned how his game would translate to the NFL, being an Ohio State quarterback where he always had superior talent to other Big Ten teams. Todd McShay questioned his ability to go through progressions, and Chris Sims broke the internet by making Justin Fields his 5th-ranked quarterback. Sims questioned his decision-making and also thought he would panic too much and look to run too often. Fields would be drafted the 4th quarterback in the 2021 draft, selected 11th overall by the Chicago Bears, after the Bears traded with the New York Giants. Fields was initially the backup at the start of the 2021 season to Andy Dalton. Dalton got injured in Week 2 against the Bengals, and Fields took over and led the Bears to a win. Fields would go on to play 12 games the rest of the year with 10 starts. He threw 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. In 2022, as the full-time starter for the Bears, Fields was very solid, despite the fact that the team finishing 3-12 as the starter. He showed a lot of ability, making a lot of big-time runs, and showed a full display of the athleticism that made him so great at Ohio State. Trevor Lawrence was a consensus number 1 overall player by 24/7 Sports coming out of Cartersville High School in Cartersville, Georgia. He was seen as a can't-miss prospect by many and chose to attend the University of Clemson. Trevor Lawrence would eventually win the starting job in 2018 after 4 games. The rest was history, as Lawrence would lead Clemson to a national title over defending champions at the time, Alabama. Lawrence would lead Clemson to back-to-back playoff appearances in 2019 and 2020, falling to LSU in the national title game in 2019. He celebrated one of the best, most decorated college careers by a quarterback in college history. Lawrence was considered the top quarterback in the 2021 NFL Draft and was selected first overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Lawrence had a shaky first season in 2021 as the team went 3-14, but bounced back in a big way in year 2, where things really clicked under new head coach Doug Peterson, and Jacksonville went all the way to the divisional championship, falling just short to the Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. The future looks really bright for Trevor Lawrence, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have certainly found a franchise quarterback. Thanks for tuning in to Big Time Football Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show.